Hi, welcome to another episode of Mighty Media's Living the Dream. Joining us today is Richard Blank, the CEO of Costa Rica's call center. Richard's story is all about taking risk, overcoming family guilt and societal pressure, and building something amazing in a new country. He's been on this incredible journey for over 2 decades now, training over 10,000 bilingual telemarketers along the way. That's right, 10,000 telemarketers. Richard's got some seriously advanced telemarketing strategies, tips on conflict management, and insights into customer support that we're going to dive into today. Plus, he's also about gamification. He owns the largest collection of restored American pinball machines and antique jukeboxes in Costa Rica. And he's integrated that fun into his company's culture. Now, we're going to hear about his unique techniques, like the famous buffer boomerang technique, how he reads phonetic micro-expressions to enhance customer interactions, and his take on the pros and cons of AI in the industry. So sit back, get ready, and be inspired by Richard's journey, because Richard is living what many only dream about. And with that said, we're going to get to it. Richard, thank you and welcome to Living the Dream.
Greg, I'm so happy to be with you and your audience today. Thank you for that amazing intro. And I'm prepared to share a ton of golden nuggets with you and your amazing audience.
Okay. Well, Richard, we're going to jump right into, first of all, the beginning, the genesis. How did you find yourself in Costa Rica?
Now, that's a great question. It was built on momentum. Ever since I was a little boy, I gravitated towards Spanish. I loved it. I was picking up vocabulary. Latino market was giving me a positive reinforcement. And then when it came down to make that big decision in high school, what you're going to study in college, I had a choice. I could fall under the pressures of going to Harvard Law like Grandpa, Columbia Business School like my pops, or Washington and Lee University like my brother. I didn't have the grades and maturity, and I just didn't feel like that was a good path for me. It just didn't feel right. And so I decided to be a Spanish major and go to the University of Arizona. I knew it was going to make me versatile, marketable, open some doors, or at least I know I'd get a return on investment of those 4 years, or in my case, 5 years at the university. And so what happened was during college, I interned for Telemundo just to test the waters. Post-grad, I worked for the importers of Corona, and I also sold telecom to the Latino marketplace. I was practicing those skills. And so in August of 2000, I was given a 1 in a million opportunity to move to Costa Rica and work at my friend's center. And as you stated, I got past some serious parents' guilt, decided to stop sending my resume out through a fax machine to try to get a job, and then take a time out. Little did I know I shed some skin, opened my eyes, fell in love with the girl of my dreams, decided to stay. And that pretty much began the second half of my life on this amazing adventure. It was very pure. It was raw. There was no blueprint. You couldn't use your family or friends' connections. It's pretty much just starting from scratch at a later age in life when you're 27. You're not a kid anymore. And so you may realize that you are given this incredible chance that only crosses your path once in a lifetime. And you may need to make selfish decisions. And in my case, it was a healthy decision because I knew that I wouldn't regret it and I could live with it. And that's kind of why we're here today.
Richard, one of the things that you brought up, and that is that later or while you were in school, you realized that you weren't going to be a doctor or a lawyer. So you decided far as on language or uh, linguistics. So, with that being said, was there anything in your youth that prepared you far as for this remarkable journey?
Dedicated practice, just like in the Karate Kid, waxing on and waxing off when Miyagi's not around. Anybody that does above and beyond what they do in school or in athletics during practice, that's when you become an ace, become the best. And I knew that I was preparing myself for a life of this. But I tell you what, when I was the only one out of my friends that could speak Spanish, I knew that it was special. Also, Arizona had a great language department. It gave me a chance to travel abroad my junior year. But it's your cosquillas, it's your butterflies, your intuition. And especially when I was graduating, I had terrible grades. They were not good. I was playing too much in high school. And so my Spanish teacher decided to offset those grades and give me a college recommendation letter. And then I got one from the principal, the late principal, Norman Schmidt. Without these two individuals, I would have never gotten into Arizona. And so even today, Gregory, I have a second language scholarship that I give to a graduating senior at Abington so they can study that second language and I'll pay for their books freshman year. So I like to pay it forward and be very humble and thank those that assisted me along the way. But this was a major decision. I had to convince my parents at the time paying for college why I was doing this. My argument was my great grandparents that came to the United States from Eastern Europe at the turn of the 20th. They couldn't speak English and they made their money during the Depression. So I said, listen, if they didn't come, you wouldn't even be here. So we're nomads. It's in our blood. I'm not moving this way. I'm just going south. And you should never extinguish a spark in somebody as long as it's not hurting somebody else. And even if you don't understand it, there might be communities that do understand it and see your interest. And these are the ones that should be encouraging you, not your family that might be afraid for you or negative Nancy's trying to protect you. But think about it like this. If you never get on a roller coaster, you never experience loop de loops, while your parents are afraid you're going to puke. Guess what? Both might happen. But whatever happens, you're still building character and you're drinking life and enjoying yourself. So I always believe that too conservative parents can hinder growth, and the ones that are too free can just let someone make wrong decisions. So the greatest thing that I had besides my immediate family and friends were other mentors that helped direct me and balance my bike. And so I was curious. I didn't mind knocking on a door or asking a follow-up question or making myself vulnerable to let them know I know absolutely nothing. Is there any chance you can begin to fill my head with some ideas? And so, being a dreamer, you might need to walk alone. You might get laughed at sometimes, or people might think that it's far fetched or it's cute or a passing phase. But you need to hold your ground. And so I made this commitment to myself at 18 years old. If I was going to really study this thing, I got to learn it. And I got to figure out a way to make a living from it. But, Spanish was my major and communication was my minor. So a lot of the stuff that I apply in my call center practice was from the theories and the activities that I did during college in the communication classes. And so thankfully, Gregory, I got a luxury trade and I'm able to earn a living through rhetoric, through speech, through that sort of performance, which thankfully still has value. And so, as you say, living a dream, I'm living a great dream. Why do you think I'm so smiley and happy all the time? Because it's not about how much money you make. I've done very well for myself. There's a certain time when gold and jewels lose its luster, and there's only so many dinners you can eat. And so, being 52, bald and gray, it's my turn to somehow pass that wisdom and to do it where it's not just a phase or something that's in and out. I would like to do some sort of development so these diplomatic soft skills individuals have can enrich their lives so they can put their phone down and communicate with people in a different way. As you and I were talking before the podcast, the old school way, the things we were raised on by our parents and grandparents. And so I'm trying to instill what I know. And unfortunately, our generation, Generation X, we're unique, we're niche, and some people find us interesting. But I think we had some serious backbone there was a lot of coming of age, and I maybe we were the last generation that didn't have that computer and cell phone when we were growing up, lying on the grass, looking at the stars and telling our dreams to our friends. And so I'm trying to recapture that again in a sense.
Okay. And it's interesting that you bring up mentoring. And that is one of the most important things that during our generation that we had access as far as to quite a number of mentors. Now, all of our mentors weren't giving us everything we needed, but we had the foresight, and especially you had the foresight for us to get bits and pieces in order to put all of those pieces to the puzzle together. And you had mentioned that you are doing a scholarship right now, as far as for young people who are in high school to learn that second language. When we were in high school, in my high school, I can only speak for my high school. We were offered the elective, but at that particular time, I don't think that many had the foresight in order to see down the road that the world were becoming more interconnected. So, what would you tell a young person today?
Yes, well, anybody that's bilingual bears the mark of higher education. And if you're worried about an accent, it's just a beauty mark. Look at Ricardo Montalban from Fantasy Island. That was the man right there. What does it do for you? It really shows good faith in the beginning. People realize there's a sincere effort in really trying to communicate with someone. And so I myself, in regards to a first impression, knowing the proper grammar, vocabulary, and pleasantries, was able to properly introduce myself, network accordingly, be invited to people's homes, second plates of food. I knew my social graces and I could do it in two languages. It felt very James Bondish of me. It's kind of cool. And if you're talking about smoothing, now you got extra game. You could talk about the weather and it sounds great. And so, I mean, come on, you sound like an ace every time. And for some odd reason, life just seemed to get a little bit easier in this second language. But then you say, well, you might make a mistake or you might not understand something. Yeah, I got you. But the people are so enthralled for the fact that you're participating, you're there. You get points for that. There's like a handicap and a hedging and a curve. And everyone is more than willing to carry you along, to give you some grammar, some additional vocabulary, a couple expressions. My problem is I don't get jokes in Spanish, or it takes me 5 years to get it. But that's cute. It's still innocent. It's still raw. You're not so rehearsed, and the conversation isn't so mundane that you space out. When you are bilingual, you are really concentrating in the moment. You're translating, you're figuring, you feel smarter. It's like a recharging of a battery. You're really in there. And so, for somebody with attention deficit and attention spans and can be bored quickly if someone's not juggling in front of me, this really allowed me to live in the now and to really be there in life. And it surprised me. It's kind of weird. It's almost like surfing. Eventually you can kind of know where the board is. You kind of get a couple moves, but there's nothing better than a 3-minute conversation, a 5-minute conversation. You're like, wait a second, I'm really surfing. Next thing you know, you've been talking for 2 hours with someone over coffee, hanging out, and you feel that you have more culture. You feel enriched. You want to start looking at paintings now and write poetry. I mean, there's other parts of your mind that you start taking things out of. It's when you do the arts, you are working certain areas of your brain. And they say when you get older, it's either crossword puzzles or second languages, so you don't lose it. And for me, I chose the former. But it was versatile. Could you imagine if I chose something that I could go to a seminar twice a year, or I had to be by a computer or buy something? All the world's a stage. So I gave myself a playground, and it allowed me to not get reinforced, but to constantly practice it. I was getting 2 or 3 hours of free Spanish a day. And then when you are dating someone, or my wife currently, that's a free tutor. Like the movie My Tutor. That's great, right? You can kiss your tutor. And so, life was fun. Everything was exciting. It's almost like in The Wizard of Oz, it went from black and white to color. All of a sudden, everything seemed a lot brighter, and it kept me on my toes. Where every second I'm asking what a definition is of a new furniture or food or life. And like a child, you're just so excited and observant. And so it was really a beautiful, beautiful gift that I gave myself, and that just keeps giving to this day.
What are some of the challenges that you faced when you initially started your business in a different country?
We have a phenomenal labor pool here, so it's not like I created the labor pool. Call centers were here a decade before I even got here. You have companies such as Amazon, HP, Intel, and Oracle. So they are producing, you know, a training school for this industry. I wasn't on a home court advantage. So let's be realistic. I needed to hire specialists. I can't go to Cisco school. I needed a CTO. I don't know the laws here like I do now. So I needed an attorney, an accountant, human resources director, head of security, supervisors. And so it's almost like branches and roots of a tree. Just make me the trunk, make me the prima donna so I can just do the training classes and have fun with people. But I did realize, like the A team, you need to surround yourself with winners, and you need to delegate. You need to have faith in individuals. Most of the time, I've made good decisions, but I've had some bad hires before. That's the name of the game. And my industry has an extremely large attrition rate. People burn out in it. Plus, we compete against India and the Philippines. But here's why it made sense to me to be in this industry. First, I was in my friend's center for 4 years, so I got to hang out with the people. I learned it from the inside out, not at sea level. So you get to hear what's going on behind the curtain and the good and the bad. And also, it's almost like my graduate school. In 4 years, I learned retention, onboarding, customer support, sales, SEO, search engine optimization, affiliate management, even some of the labor laws and training and onboarding. So it allowed me to really hone those skills. And then when I was in my mid 30s, I knew I was getting older. So it was a chance just to throw my hat in the ring. And I did it conservatively. I was renting a turnkey station at a blended center, like an internet cafe. There was no privacy, but I could scale accordingly, make my margin, pay the taxes, and pay the overhead. And so I did that for a couple of years. It wasn't glamorous, but I had enough capital and some solid clients that I then rented space where I was buying used furniture and equipment from call centers going out of business. And I could scale accordingly per row and manage that effectively. And then after 6 years of that, I had enough money and larger clients that I decided to purchase a building, put on a third floor, and equipped it for 300 people. You're looking at a 17-year journey right now. This didn't happen overnight. So just like grandpa taught me, you do it in cash, slow and conservative, so you can sleep at night. You pay your taxes and people's salaries before yourself, so you're not struggling or making very risky, unethical decisions. I mean, this is my reputation here. And so there is natural attrition. I'll lose people because of a scheduling conflict. Their girlfriend works somewhere, they can make more money. Okay. But you and I will never give them the walk of shame. I don't want somebody to cry. I'm here to build you up, not to break you down. But I will do this, though, and we're the kind of people that call the balls and the strikes. And I'll give you some serious Philly guilt. Okay. I'll call you out on it because I've seen you at your best. And if you're capable of allowing me to work with you in that sort of way, then we'll definitely crack some codes and get to different levels. It's this generation, and it's okay, but they're marketable. And what they do is they'll enter strong, but they'll just peace out on you and won't even give you 2 weeks notice. And what I have learned in business for your entrepreneur is that when you work with somebody, it's character during chaos. Nothing's ever perfect. And if there's no surprises, and you can advise your client either of preventative measures or a game plan after something happens that you're on it, they'll respect you more. I mean, you may lose a few clients, they might get emotional, But the real players, the ones that have run a business before, love that accountability. Come on, man, even though you spilled the beer, I'm going to clean it up. I'll pay for it. And let's keep going. You fall on certain swords. You keep the peace. And that's very important for me. But, it's very humbling when people come back, they have options. And the fact that individuals are putting wind in my sails, hopefully I can do the same for them. And, when you run a business, you do have leverage. You can hire and fire somebody. So I'm constantly looking for somebody that's raw that I can mold like a squire to a knight. There's absolutely no way I would turnkey bring in a supervisor and have them run a department. They would never get the respect of the people. And so even if you're an 18-year-old, you know, red cheeked freshman that's wet behind your ears, if you're killing it, showing up to work on time, great attitude, come on, Gregory and I are going to promote you like crazy. We just don't want you to know yet. We just want to keep seeing that you're not too good to be true. But if you are, you're going to be in that big boy meeting. Put a star on you, and then we'll see what you can do.
You had brought up something, and that's regarding AI and how it has affected the industry. Would you care to elaborate on that?
Of course. Most people today prefer omni-channel non-voice support. They prefer texting, chats, and emails. A lot of the bots and AI can assist you to gather the information and move it along the way. Let's do a football analogy. Let's let AI take it to the 10-yard line. I need to put that ball into the end zone. There needs to be that interpersonal communication. People will still press zero to speak to somebody. They'd rather have that live reservation. Also, I believe my strongest argument against AI, even though it is reducing my staff and making us more effective, they will never replace empathy. They can't. They can do everything but. A computer cannot tell you how bad they feel that your puppy ran away. It just doesn't seem authentic. What happens if you break your arm? They're going to say they know how you feel? No, they don't. It's AI. They don't have arms. And so I believe that the authenticity, that crying on the shoulder, or that sort of, as you mentioning, bonding moment, that will never be replaced. It's better to see a painting than a print, home cooked meal than microwaved live theater compared to movie. And so you will see today, and people talk about it, that AI is writing script, playing music, creating art. That's okay. But if you walk downtown 10, 20, 30 years from now and you see a person playing live on the street, this hat there to try to make a buck, I guarantee he's going to have a long line of people dropping $1 into his hat because they're going to love to see somebody that's passionate, live, doing their business. I know that certain musicians are complaining they're not making as much money because they're on Spotify and other areas. We were talking about that. Okay, but remember this, you got into this first for the passion, and then the money comes. So I'm not saying you're not going to earn money, but you might make more money playing on the corner on Fifth Street than you would trying to sell your CDs online. It's like this famous artists that you hear the stories about them selling their CDs in the back of their cars and in the trunks. Famous people, right? And so when they look back at those smaller club dates, the times they were hustling, when they were fixing a tire in the rain to get to a show, now that they're multi-zillionaires, they love those times. It's like when you see the famous people that are still best friends with their kindergarten friend. They realize that's still their buddy from back in the day, even though they're super huge and super famous. But when it comes to that phone call, that moment, wedding, who sits at their top table, it's that guy. It's the one that loved him before all the fame and the fortune and got to know the individual when you skinned your knee, fell out of the tree, and was scared on a rainy night. It's just um, so as much as AI seems threatening, I'm not afraid of the buggy whip. I'm not afraid of the steam engine or the industrial revolution. Some people are worried about their jobs. Listen, if it's going to eliminate my industry, I'll just be like Zorba the Greek, put out my hands and start dancing when my ship goes down. But until that time comes, I'm still going to believe in the art of speech. I believe that we have merit. The individuals here will retain a client, get that upsell, get that referral, and maybe even that exit interview that AI might not be able to get. So we will still, and I will still make this argument, there's a huge value for these proficient speakers in this industry.
And I'm not to slam AI, as you had mentioned, because it does help us get some things done quickly, and it does some heavy lifting for us.
May I share an example with you?
Okay.
Venting. When someone vents, we have a rule here: profanity. If profanity goes this way, it's okay. We'll just let them vent. If it goes at you, we get a warning. One more time, I'll kill the call. AI is going to have a default there where if you start cursing, they're going to kill the call. But what happens when we've had people frustrated and they just curse for a couple seconds and they say, Gregory, I'm so sorry. I apologize. And I go, you finished? Would you like to still do a little more? They're like, no, no, Richard, I'm okay. You sure, Gregory? Okay, good. And then you get even closer and the call ends well. And so imagine that they're going to be dropping and they're going to be dispositioning calls when people are just letting off steam. Okay. And that's just something that I'm concerned with too, because when you're on the phone and people can't understand you when you're trying to put in the information, you start screaming, saying, may I speak to someone? F this, what's going on here? Next thing you know, click. And then you got to get back in queue again and waste 25 minutes and be extra nice and careful with the people on the phone so they don't hang up on you again. And so please take that into consideration with people, how long they've been waiting, the latency, right? And so they might be just taking it out on you, but just make sure it goes this way, not at you directly.
Really important, and that's developing those soft skills.
Well, you should be attentive when listening. If you ask somebody to repeat themselves multiple times, it only frustrates them. You should fall on certain swords. Instead of saying, Gregory, excuse me, it's Gregory, for my clarification. Was it ABC or 1, 2, 3? Those are nice things to do. Plus, I like doing positive escalations. If somebody assisted me along the way before I transfer or just did a great job, I'll let them know verbally and in writing that they did great. So you sometimes get extra goodies out of that. And also, we have a soft skills technique. It's the buffer boomerang technique. You were mentioning it earlier. How about this? Your audience see that? You buffer the negative tone. Gregory, you say that's an excellent question. ABC is 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Richard, what's 1, 2, 3? Gregory, great question. 1, 2, 3 is ABC. I name drop you to buffer that negative tone, let you know it's a great question. Repeat the question for active listening, then send it back to you positive. There's ways of readjustments of tone, of gauging a positive and negative reinforcement. If you're an entrepreneur and you're outbound prospecting, and you hear the word good thanks, is this a sales call? No, thank you. Why are you calling? Is this a scam? You sound like a salesperson. What you're trying to do is land an introduction because the body and conclusion don't even exist. So my suggestion for people is to start strong. Use your anonymity. The first couple seconds should be the company name spike. Hey, Night Peak Media, how you doing today? You have no idea who I am. And guess what, Gregory? I said it better than you did. And then the first thing you do is you say, hey, who's this? Yeah, that's a great question. My name is Richard Blank. Then I'm going to wait for the double dip reinforcement. You go, Richard Blank, Mr. Positive. Who are you? What company do you represent? I knew you were going to ask that question. The name of my company is Costa Rica Call Center. And then you play your odds. You reduce an ego defense from about a 10 to a 4, and you move that 6 into you. So you get forward motion. And this only happens in 30-second to a minute clips. So don't think you're on a 5 to a 10-minute call. 10-minute calls is 20, 30-second checkpoints. You need tie-down questions. Gregory, makes sense, right? Gregory, sounds good, right? Gregory, may we move forward? You need to, because I'd rather have a solid 4 than a shaky 10, and then you're not then you don't have that appointment. And so it's very important, once again, to give a military alphabet towards the end of the call, so emails don't bounce back. Chances are somebody could have served for a while. So you can anchor with individuals. Since people are working from home, if you happen to hear a dog barking in the background, why don't you stop for a second? Hey, Gregory, I love dogs. What I'm doing is inadvertently and passive aggressively letting you know I can't hear you. Dog's barking, right? And then I'll go, hey, what's the name of your dog? And you're going to go, Champ. Really? What breed is it? It's a German Shepherd. How old is your puppy? Ha ha ha. My puppy's 12 years old. I'm like, yeah. And so come on, man. And then you're like, hold on, Richard, I'll just put it outside real quick. And I'm like,
Okay.
of course you will. And then you come back again. And so, um, out of 1,000 people, how many mentioned Betty, your secretary? Probably me. Out of 1,000 people, how many mentioned your dog? Or if anything, they're like, hey, I can hear your dog. I can't hear you, Gregory. Excuse me, excuse me. Come on. These are the sort of soft skills. Instead of going back and forth where it's a straight line, do a half moon. It still touches the 2 points, but it eases in and eases out. It doesn't hurt as much. It's smooth. Slide in there, right? A little bit of a lean.
Mhm.
And so it seems less offensive. You're not aggressive. You're more assertive. And these are the sort of things, my man, someone's got to lead the dance. And is it manipulation? Of course it is. It's just not lying. What I'm doing is it's like choose your own adventure. I'm just following along what you're choosing. And I'm just making sure at the end we get the gold. And so it's a beautiful way to prolong your metrics and have longer talk times. It doesn't mean that your conversion ratios will increase. I mean, it should if you're pitching longer. But how about this, my man? At least you're making your case. At least you can have romantic deaths and jump clouds on these sales calls. You knew you gave it your all. The real college try. And just by default, it doesn't close, but you can live with yourself. You know, you're doing perfect pitches. And so these are the sort of simple soft skills that we repeat and do every day, just in the beginning, in order for us to get our composure, our balance to anchor, and at least give ourselves a 30-second buy time. So I get another 30 seconds to potentially introduce myself.
And as they're talking, they're describing the problem that they're having and how they're looking for the solution to that problem right there. And if you're not actively listening, or as you had mentioned, and that is making sure, using that boomerang to make sure you understood what they said and repeat it back to them. That
Or
gives
like
them,
with your dog, asking follow-up questions from horizontal to vertical, and you ask the open-ended questions. You were mentioning speech and people talking. I understand that, but you're talking about sight unseen. So we're removing these sort of micro expression readings that we get face to face. And so I've trained my individuals to really pay attention to the ah, okay, or clicking of a keyboard calculator, writing something. So in essence, really, it's like a dessert tray. I'm going to bring out the 10 pieces of cake, but I'm going to go through each one, present it, and then pause 1 or 2 seconds to see how you react. Let's say you don't react to any of them. All right, then put your last chip down and go, hey, Gregory, I'm sure you like at least one. I didn't say all 10, but come on, man, at least 1 out of 10. And you go, yeah, I think I like D. I think I like the pumpkin cake. Oh, yeah, pumpkin cake. Of course you do. And now we focus on pumpkin cake. And so really what you're doing is the menu offering, chiseling, repeating, and then stacking the extra sauce, cheese, and the other stuff on it. It's just people run through their pitches, they're flinching, waiting for the hang up. If that's how you're doing it, that's a forced march. That's terrible. That's carpet bombing. You're going to burn them out. You should really, as I say, go slow. And when you do some due diligence, like you and I have done prior to this podcast, and I really appreciate it. I mean, before we got on live, you knew half my life story. And when you can do this with somebody that helps you with custom made voicemails and emails, or if you do, like if you got me on the phone and you said, hey, Richard, I hear you collect pinball machines. Man, I got my Visa and at the ready. It's yours to lose. I mean, seriously, you can get to my heart. You know what I'm happy about? Look at their website, look at their colors, look at their locations. If you're lucky enough, you get to see certain things in the background. I tell you what, when I used to go on my job interviews back in 1996, I was going around Scottsdale and Phoenix trying to get jobs. This is before people's cell phones, so imagine how these individuals are sitting in the waiting room. So it was my turn, and I would go in and I have to talk to Billy and Joey and make my case. So I'd be sitting there talking, and then I'd say, listen, gentlemen, do you mind if I stand up for a second? I'm like, okay, not to intimidate, because let me move around a bit. And so what I would do is I'd get up and I'd do a half loop around their office. Why? Because if I'm sitting and I'm talking to you, I don't see the jukebox and the candy machine behind me. And so there's a very good chance I'm going to see you fishing, playing golf, Michigan State, something. And I'm going to talk about things that I would have never talked about if I didn't look behind me. I mean, these are your things in your office, turned on, proudly displayed. You'd be foolish not to find 2 or 3 Me Too's in there and to get real and raw for a minute. And then everyone's laughing, having fun. And then I used to walk out of the interviews, look at the room, and 6 people would stare at me. I go, try to beat that, boys. Good luck. And just walk out, because they were just way too serious and wearing their Brooks Brothers suits. But I tell you what, when you get raw, and you don't have to act like a clown, but if you make yourself vulnerable, if you're willing to share some things about yourself, the good, bad, the ugly, coming of age moments, right? I mean, they're going to realize that you can zig and zag. If you go out on an appointment and you're at some mechanic's place compared to a carniceria, a meat shop, are you able to stick and move? Oh, yeah, I know a little bit about a ton of things. So at least I can talk about one thing. I can almost say one word in multiple languages just to get your attention. And it's just enough to anchor and to get a hold on that rock. And then you figure out where you got to go from there. And so um, people, once again, need to be a little bit more lucid in regards to their environment because there's tons of clues out there that's much stronger than the script that you're pitching.
I see quite a number. I see the jukebox behind you, and I
Yeah.
see a pinball machine behind you. And that brings me to the point, gamification culture
Oh, yeah.
within your company. How has that influenced morale?
Remember the show Silver Spoons with Ricky Schroeder?
Uh-huh.
Didn't we all want that arcade? Are you serious? And so, it's kind of like Tom Hanks in the movie Big. Listen, I'm still a kid. The fact that I chose a very lucrative career, had some very good years, aren't I supposed to be going out buying Lamborghinis and Rolexes? No, I was looking for arcades going out of business so I can buy their machines like a kid. And so what did I do? I bought 15 pinball machines, 6 jukeboxes, an air hockey table, ski machine, fighting machines. Why? I got the room for it here. And so, I got a bunch at home in my bodega, but no, I wanted to create recess. I wanted a happy medium. Stop smoking cigarettes and looking at your phone, damn it. Come hang out with me and Gregory and play some classic Bally's pinball from the 1970s and 80s. And it forms friendships of people from other departments. People fall in love by the Pac-Man machine and got married. They even said, yeah, man, we used to play games together downstairs. We would play. And then for me, because people might misjudge me or compare me to other bosses, but when I am downstairs in that game room, we're all even. We're all playing with each other. And in the morning, I'll have people tap me on the shoulder and say, good morning, Hefe, when I'm playing the game. So they realize I'm cool like that. And I also want them to try something that they've never seen before. You can do this AI virtual pinball, but there's nothing like a true Bally's, Data East, Gottlieb, Williams sitting right in front of you. I mean, you feel these things and you see the beautiful marquees and the play field and the artwork, and especially my 70s machines with the electrical mechanical. You get to see the classic wheel and you hear the bells going. It's a dream for me. Growing up, pinball machines were like that high school cheerleader out of your league. I mean, expensive, tough to play. It's like I'd rather play 45 minutes of asteroids than have my money wasted on a machine. And so, I was finally able to get them, and it's just been such an obsession for me. The restoration, the unlimited plays, the marathons, and just I love it. And it's beautiful in life when you know your true tastes, and instead of trying to emulate or do what society does, which is fine. If you really love that thing in the corner and that will make you happy, then buy that sweater and wear it. It makes you happy. Those are your days. And um, with people here, they realize how I treat them, how I treat myself. When clients visit me, I kind of call them out saying, why don't you have a game room for your people? And don't tell me a TV or ping pong table helps. I mean, it's cool and everything, but no, give them an experience. And as I say before, when you're working at any sort of job, instead of icing a kicker or getting, you're off your rhythm. If you can walk downstairs from making 2 hours worth of phone calls and then play a fighting game, or you're still using hand-eye coordination, you're doing time, and you're still working it. So when you go back upstairs, you didn't miss a beat, and you did let off some steam, and you did have some fun. And damn it, I know we're adults, but we're supposed to play, play, not the once a week golf course, the occasional bowling or pool night or whatever. You're supposed to have fun. And sometimes people might find the games today complicated, which I do. I'm a retro gamer. I'm a one button joystick or pinball guy. I would love to learn these games, but it's like going to school. I just can't plug and play and enjoy them. And so it's time invested. And so for me, I just want to jump in and jump out and just go in and go out. And it helps me decompress. It really does. And it was a childhood dream that I fulfilled. And I'm very selfish like that because there's space down here. I could put desks or lockers or something call center-ish. Hell no, I want my arcade. Hey, do you remember Willy Wonka? It's like
Oh,
when you
yes.
walked into that place and it's all gray and boring, and then all of a sudden you open those big doors and you got a river of chocolate. You can eat anything. You're walking into a call center and you're like, oh, I gotta make these
Mhm.
phone calls. But then the next thing you know, you're walking through an amazing arcade and you realize, yeah, it's not so bad. At least this environment is kind of cool. And so I've tried to reduce that stress in any way possible naturally, and I've seemed to accomplish it.
Because that breaks um, the image of a call center. Because often, people think of a call center as the boiler room, and that is that you have these guys or these girls, these people are sitting around with coffee, sodas at their desk, maybe with a
That's right.
mirror, and they're you know, just constantly rattling off, okay, I get a call right here, but they're kind of dreading that period right there. There's nothing that's, um, it's just a plain sterile room, and
Yeah.
everyone's just talking right there. It seems that your training and you've taken it to an entirely different level. And at the same time, while you do have competition from the Philippines and from other countries, you're doing something that you're taking that time to make sure you're getting quality versus just quantity, making
Right.
calls without having that quantity there and actually serving the customer.
Yes. Those with skills should be selective. If you're marketable, you shouldn't be in that environment with bad lighting, bad breath, and bad leads. You should get out of there. And you shouldn't compromise your ethics and values and morals if you have the skills. And Hollywood, God bless them. I mean, you're thinking of Blake from Glengarry Glen Ross telling the machine that he can't have coffee because coffee's for closers. And then you're looking at Boiler Room, where you have the people, Vin Diesel, closing on the call and asking where he should send the check to his office or his mansion, and everyone's in suits and pitching. I mean, I've seen environments like that. I think it's beautiful, the energy. I mean, the skill set. It just depends on what they're selling. And then you have The Wolf of Wall Street, which people, they live and die by that movie, and I agree. I mean, the skill set of the individuals and the training and the confidence is beautiful. And we listen to some of those calls to analyze the name drops, transitional sentences, the loud whispering, the pausing, the illustrators. Leonardo DiCaprio did a phenomenal job, and Gordon Belfort, talented, talented salesman. And so it's not for the faint of heart. A lot of individuals don't even manual dialer. They're on predictive dialing, which means they're in ready status. If you haven't built up for that, imagine doing a batting cage for 8 hours a day. It's heavy. But then again, your production goes through the roof. Tell you what, if you can settle on these skills and hone and craft them, you can make $1 million. Because it's not just over the phone, you're just an advanced communicator. But for me, I extended the empathy. I made the calls. I was in the cubicles. I've done it. And so I know what it's like on rainy Wednesdays and when someone says F you to you on the phone. And they try to rattle you up and makes you want to quit. But realize this, why you got into this in the first place. You were looking for a certain industry where you could make a lot of money, where you're not going to be bored, where if you see it like I do, you could really every day, as you say, enhance your skills and get better at something compared to having it monotonous. And when you're watching these movies or you see these boiler rooms of these environments, that's the owner, the supervisor, and the agent's fault. Everybody has the chance to create that sort of synergy. Even if you don't have the big windows or natural light, you can still make happy. You can still make it great. And, a lot of it does deal with nurture and leadership. My favorite people were my coaches and the teachers that let me take a test twice and gave me second chances. There were certain parents that realized I was growing up and I was just mischievous but curious, and still let me play with their kids. And so you got to think of you giving benefit of the doubt to people. And it's not just putting them in cookie cutter and realizing things happen at home and they might have stresses. And this is an extremely demanding job. And so I love the generals in the Army that would sleep and eat and rest with their people. I love that. That's the best leadership for me. I mean, I know I wear the suit, I write the checks, I own the building. So be it. But when I've done training or if I'm on the floor and I give this positive feedback to people, they know it's real. I'm just not calling you champ. I mean, yes, Gregory, you are the champ. But my main man, I saw you did 44 last week. I'm so exceptionally proud of you. And by the way, I listened to the Mrs. Jones call. You did? That was 20 minutes. Of course I did. I wanted to make sure you landed the 7 rebuttals and that you complimented her son that transferred the call, and got you the actual appointment. And the fact that we made some money off of it, I just got to let you know your hard work. Look what it did. And here's your bonus right now, champ. My main man. And I want everyone to know on the floor. Oh, by the way, if you don't mind, I'd like to use that next week for the training class so everyone can listen to you and ask you questions. Anything else I can do to embarrass you, sir? And that's what we do. And then they realize through humor, you're making it easy on them. It's just one of those moments. And I've learned that now, especially with this new generation that needs that sort of acknowledgement and recognition. You need to do something that's memorable, that lasts. Because if I just do it in fleeting, it's not going to pay attention. But if I get 2 or 3 people around them to see it, to follow up on it, start nicknaming them, things like that, it might hit by the second or third time. And then they incorporate it and then grow from it. Because it's not the sort of thing where you coach them once and it sits. No. This thing needs a triple dip. It has to. It's the only way the chocolate stays on the ice cream. And so I'm willing to do it. And I have to do it through multiple stimulations, through their colleagues, publicly done so they get the acknowledgement, and then finally the nickname so they can remember it and have that trigger. And so, yeah, nicknames. We're good at that in Philly.
Now, one of the things that I did see on one of your videos, and that was you had you had several colleges that came through your call center and you gave them a tour. And at the same time, you spent a lot of time going over things or educating them during that particular time. To me, it was a lab right there, a real world, real experience lab that you offered that class. Is that something that often colleges are in contact with you or other organizations or looking, Richard, we need to move the needle. We need training. Are they contacting you or?
I've had the local high schools. I've had three of them here, which is amazing. And they come all day. I feed them. They hang out. But I did have the Feliciano School of Business of Montclair State University. They came to visit me and they actually sat for like a 2-hour lecture. I had them ask me questions. They're so learned. I was envious of their theories and studies, and they were so smart. But what I saw was innocence. It wasn't ignorance. It was innocence. And maybe what happens is you don't really see what's behind the curtain or under the hood. And you might discuss spreadsheets and certain economic, situations. But the one thing that I realized that they weren't really asking me questions on was the wild card, the random. They just wanted to rattle off what they studied and see if I could confirm it or give an example of it. But in business, the ones that survive are the ones that are capable of adapting and change in the moment, or have set up preventative measures to be able to offset certain things. And so I found it almost cute and sweet, the sort of questions they were asking, because it just seemed like a Hallmark after school special where all of a sudden you open up a business, say grand opening, there's a line out front and everyone's buying cupcakes. 5 years later, you're retired. So I didn't want to shatter any sort of enthusiasm, but I also didn't want to give doom and gloom. But I tell you what, you do get scars, and you sometimes don't show it or you can hide it. But when you get through this sort of thing, you're beat up. It's like a Mike Tyson fight. You win the prize, but you pay the price. And so I just want to make sure people realize the sort of commitment mentally, physically, financially, emotionally, get disappointed sometimes. As I mentioned, sacrifices, time away from family and friends. But then again, on the flip side, you could retire early, have a comfortable life, and accomplish certain goals. And so it's a trade off. But I tell you what, though, extremely intelligent young men and women that had such drive and ambition. And so if I were a betting man, I'd definitely put money behind them. I think each one of them will be exceptionally successful. And so I'm honored in the fact that they have come and visit me. Maybe I was the only one who wrote them back. I don't know. But the most important thing is they came to visit. And the funny thing is, too, it's a Jersey school, and I'm from Philadelphia, so I didn't want to make any jokes about Jersey, except, I go to their shore in the summers. That everyone's got to tease New Jersey. But thank you for bringing that up. That was, you want to talk about milestones? That was a beautiful moment for me to be able to, for a day, feel like a professor. Yeah, rock on. College professor. Yeah, I took it. And so I got to do it and I said to the class, there's no exam, so don't worry. It's almost like when they brought in the old TV or the movie projector in class, you're like, yeah, no quiz. And so I wanted them to know to not feel any pressure. It was just more of a learning environment.
Okay. And that's quite often with so many universities that, you know, missing that element right there, going out and actually being in the mix, so to speak, of seeing things and how they actually work. And having someone such as yourself who is more than gracious and generous enough to spend that time and provide those golden nuggets. And speaking of providing time, I am extremely grateful for you taking the time and sharing this information for us with our audience. Now, I know quite a number of people are going to want to know more about you. So let me bring up your contact information right here so they can follow you. One thing I have to say, and that's the amazing thing about technology today is
Got a very large Facebook fan page, about 140,000 local Costa Ricans there. And real quick for your audience, we are north of Panama, south of Nicaragua, only democratic society in Central America, no standing army, 95% literacy rate, and most neutral of English accents. We're known for ecotourism, medical tourism, great for surfing. And I can't thank you enough. Any of you or your audience want to come visit me? Buy a first class plane ticket. Come fly down here and see the land of Pura Vida.
Okay. And they're able to see some of your pinball machines?
Oh, absolutely. If you just Google Richard Blank Pinball, you see them all. Free play. I don't charge anybody. Unless you want to buy me some sushi or something, that's cool. But yeah, you get to play for free.
Okay. Richard, thank you again for spending this evening with us and sharing the valuable information with us right here, sharing your story.
Thank you, Gregory. I had a great time.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and share it with a friend. Your support means the world to us. We'll see you in the next one.